Hi everyone, today is February 8th, 2020, and I'm going to give you a glimpse of how I water my Neos. So I do everything in these IKEA laundry tubs that I've used basically to water all of my orchids. The water that I'm using comes straight out from the tap, and it's pretty soft. The TDS meter reads about the 60s parts per million, and the pH is right around 7, so yeah, it's pretty neutral, pretty soft. So to this I add a little bit of fertilizer, and I am a proponent of the weekly dosing regimen. So the fertilizer I use is called Maxi Grow, and I just ordered this from Amazon. It's actually a hydroponics fertilizer, or well, it's marketed towards growers of hydroponics, but I like it because it dissolves pretty easy in the water. It's a pretty low NPK fertilizer. It's 10-5-14, but because I do the weekly dosing scheme, I actually dilute it out even further. So this tub is about 5-gallon worth of volume, and the normal direction for the Maxi Grow fertilizer is 1 teaspoon per gallon, and so it's diluted out even further by a fifth of that NPK value. So this is what I do. So normally what I do is I take my Neos and I just kind of like set them in with a little bit of water in there. So once they're in there, I actually water them from the top with a watering can, just to make sure that everything gets wet. I don't really care about the water getting into the middle of leaves, in between the leaves or so, on possibility of rotting, only because how they are mounded, and so there's a lot of air circulation and they'll dry out pretty quickly. Another reason why I want to sort of water them with a watering can, in addition to soaking them, is that I want to sort of clean up the leaves a little bit. Sometimes they get a little dusty on there, so I just want to get everything drenched in the fertilizer. So hopefully, I mean, this is all in theory. I really don't know. I haven't really tested out if it does anything, but I feel like it sort of helps with getting the leaves some nutrients as well. But who knows? So I usually leave them soaking like this for maybe an 8-hour period, or sometimes overnight. So they sit in here for a long time, and I don't really have a problem with them being rotted out or anything like that. So far so good, and they seem to, I don't know, the roost seems to be a lot better once I soak them. And I can tell some of the roots, when they're a little bit too dry and they're ready to be watered, they get a little wrinkly, and after the soaking, they plump back right up. So I think it's good for them. So that's basically how I water my orchids. Hi everyone, today is March 19th, 2020, and the weather's been warming up now. Today, high temperature was around 20 degrees Celsius, and we're expecting a low somewhere in the 17 degree area. So whenever the weather is at least 6 degrees or above, I feel like it's kind of safe for the Neos to be outside. We're well above that, so they've been out here for the past week or so. And whenever I move them outside, I try to make sure that they acclimate to the higher light level that they get outside. I mean, the Neos can tolerate direct sunlight, but you have to acclimate them to it. So, fortunately, last week we had a lot of rain and overcast, and so it was kind of the perfect opportunity for them to try transitioning outside. So for today, because they're all out here on the deck, let me show you. I figured I was going to talk about a little bit how I manage light. So, of course, in the winter, I talked about how I keep them under LED lights, but during the summer and spring and fall, I sort of try to follow a guide that was published by a member on a group that I belong to on Facebook. And I'll give you a reel of some of those particular varieties and how to, what light intensity they require to bring out their variety characteristics. But if you would like to get that resource, all you have to do is just join the group, and you will have access to that guideline. If you would like to get a copy of that guideline, go to Facebook and search for Neofinetia and join the group. The file will be under the Files section, and the PDF is called Table of Lighting Intensity for Fukuran. I realize that the guide has a couple of limitations. The first one is that it's not comprehensive. There are so many varieties absent from it. The second being, it's pretty vague. It's difficult to determine what is fairly high light and what's slightly lower light means. My best guess is that, generally speaking, the generally high light varieties will get some sort of direct sunlight exposure, or they'll just sit on the top level of these racks, while the lower one just will stay in the shadow. Keep in mind that these guidelines are general and only to serve to bring out vegetative traits. So if you want your Neos to grow well and bloom well, you might want to optimize all aspects of cultures, like maximizing water, fertilizer, light, temperature, etc. This particular variety is called Dong-yi, and it is said to have a Tora or tiger variation. To best bring this out, I put it out in direct sunlight, unless it is above 32 degrees Celsius, in which case it will stay under a bit of shade. At that temperature or above, it is at risk of burns. Byakko is another tiger variety, but it requires the opposite light requirement. It really needs low light levels to bring out these white blotches better. So I keep it sometimes inside on a windowsill or tucked away in a corner like it is here. Setsusan is another tiger variety that's like Yako but much bigger. I did a poor job at keeping it in low light, so much of the variegation is absent. But as you can see, the plant itself is doing well. In general, I don't think light considerations is really necessary. At least I don't adhere to any standards religiously, but it might help you out, maybe like 10% more on the desired effect. Okay, that's it for this installment. Stay safe and stay at home, everyone. See you next time. Bye.